Coming up on today's show, Spring in Bloom. That's right, we're visiting garden centers all over Northeast Ohio to get you ready for the gardening season. We're talking everything from tulips and pansies to shrubs and trees and everything in between. New Day Cleveland starts right now. Our first stop has been helping families grow the most beautiful gardens for years, and they have some of the most unique plants around. It's Coleman's Greenhouse.
Coleman's Greenhouse is a family-run greenhouse. We are in our second generation here, 51 years in business. My dad bought it in 1972, and then my husband and I bought it from my parents in 2016. Everybody's tired of the long, dark winter, and so they want to get some color and some life, and we're here, we're ready, we want to grow things. Right now it's pansies and bulb crops. We want to make sure that you've got a little bit of color with your pansies, and then we've got forced tulips and daffodils and tete-a-tetes and hyacinths and things like that are timed for Easter, and so you'll start to see those coming up. It's still a little cold outside, although I think we do have some daffodils blooming outside with our crazy winter that we've had. So we sowed these out around Thanksgiving, and then they were planted early to mid January, and this is where they're at right now. They don't like it hot, so they typically, you get your pansies in for that early spring color, tear them out, and then you put your petunias and your geraniums and your sort of summer crops in at that point. Pansies, if you're buying them straight from the inside of a store, they might not be hardened off, so you want to ease them into being outside. Bulb crops, it shouldn't be a problem. They need that cold anyway in order to get them to bloom, so that shouldn't be a problem. These are all started inside, and what I'll do is I'll move them slowly outside to get them used to being in the cold, and they can absolutely have inches of snow on them and be fine. You can certainly start to maybe do some bed cleanup. Some people say don't do that, let's save it for the bees, or there's insects that overwinter and keep all the leaves and everything down. Sometimes there's pruning to be done. It's all going to depend on the weather, and if you want to be out in your yard in the mud, or if it's going to be too cold, if you're going to prune at the wrong time. There's a lot of different things that can go into it. I like to say let's look at the 10-day forecast, and if the 10-day forecast has temperatures in the 60s night and day, or 60s or higher, then I think you're good to go. What is most exciting for me about spring? You know what it is for me? It's seeing all my customers again. Because I have customers that I only see certain times of the year. Maybe they'll buy their spring stuff from me and they go away for the fall and winter. So seeing all my retail customers again, or even my municipality, my service department customers, the guys come in and plant for the cities, that's always fun for me to see how everybody's done over the year. We have knowledge, and that's really the most important thing. We're not, we're not people at a register poking buttons. Most of my employees, I've got one employee, he's been here I think 45 years. Others that have been here for 10 years. I think, and we just hired somebody who's been in the business for a long time. But this is her first year, but she knows her stuff. And so I think, that's what we can bring to the table is knowledge to help you be successful as a gardener with our plants in your garden, and we can get you there.
Coleman's Greenhouse is located in Twinsburg on Ravenna Road.
Spring has sprung, and it is time to start thinking about getting ready for summer vegetables. The team at Boyerts and Medina is here to help.
We've all come out of hibernation right now, and so, get those seed catalogs out, and it's time to start seeding certain things. Tomatoes and a few other things. You want to wait a little bit, but for the most part, it's time to get those seeds in your flats, or just vision what you're going to put in and come in and see us in the garden centers for what you need. It's spring in Northeast Ohio. The sun is shining. A couple tips that you could do right now to get your gardens ready is keep a journal, so I know when I have to have certain things done. If you're going to do any type of gardening, second thing I always make sure is the foundation is your soil. Make sure your soil's up to snuff. You have to, if you need to get in there and redo it a little bit, now's the time to do it. Get it ready so that when you're ready to put those plants in the garden is ready. The lake temperature and the soil temperatures match. So when the lake is 40-some degrees, your soil temperature is 40-some degrees. As that water gets warmer and warmer, your soil gets warmer and warmer, and 55 is usually a pretty good time to look at it. And you know, and also, like in anything else, it varies by what kind of garden you have. If you're planting your soil into a garden that's in the ground, the soil's going to be cooler. If you're planting in raised beds, they warm up quicker. Go to the raised beds first, do your gardening second. This is the time of year when you're ready to do your seeding. You've got your journal, you've set your dates up, you keep that journal year in and year out, so you know when the best time is. So if you have an opportunity down the road and you've messed up, in your journal it'll tell you wait 2 more weeks before I sow it. I'm in the process right now of sowing some crimson spineless okra. And it's pretty simple. Get yourself a good soil, it's got some perlite in it, gives you a little bit of air, keep it moist but not wet. And when I do it, there's 20 rows here. And this is the old style way of doing it. And I put about 20 to 25 plants in here to let them grow. As we get growing and they get older, keep moving. Once you get this tray completely done, we mark it. We take a little bit of soil, we cover it up, put the date on it when we covered it, and then we water them till they get like this. And if you have things at home such as styrofoam cups, you don't want to get in and spend a little money on this kind of stuff. Put some holes in the bottom of those cups. Take these plants, transplant them into some good soil, and then watch them grow. I'm always going to tell you you could come to Boyart's, but there's a lot of good garden centers no matter where you are throughout northeastern Ohio. Go on in and ask the experts there. They're going to give you great advice. I'm in a profession that I love to do. It's my passion. And when we take these little plants and we put them in these little plugs, and we watch them grow. We take 5-6 weeks and we start with these little things and they just keep growing and growing and growing. What an experience, you know. You cannot help but love what you do when you're in here. You got a beautiful sunny day. You got all these pansies that are in here that have their smiling little faces. It's telling you it's spring.
Boyart's Greenhouse is on Worcester Pike Road in Medina. Still to come on New Day Cleveland, the steps needed to create your spring oasis. The good news is spring has officially sprung. The bad news is if you're someone like me, you need help on making your space your oasis. So this is where the folks at Lowe's here in Chagrin can come in, help us out. Chad, thank you for having me in today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You know, winter's come and gone. We're thinking about how can we make our space look more beautiful outside. I see all these plants when I come in, but then I think I wouldn't even know where to begin. Do you find that a lot of people have that same issue, or is it just me?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
So what would you what's the first step? I'm sure you have some good tips on steps we can take.
Well, the first step is to look outside, realize how you're going to utilize the space, and with that, start planning on how you're, whether or not you want that space to be a relaxation place, or whether or not you want that to be, something that helps you get work done. But either way, you need to start planning your oasis.
So how would we make it happen? Do you have maybe steps that we could take?
Yes, you want to focus on 3 steps. First step is get a plan together, get it on paper. In other words, put it to scale. Know how big your space is going to be and how best to utilize it. Step number 2 is putting in your wish list, whether it's a fire feature, whether it's a koi pond, or something as simple as just a bubbler rock with a lot of plants around it. Step number 3 is deciding on materials.
And how do you decide on material? I mean, this is where you come in, right? You're
Absolutely.
the expert. So someone would come in and you would take us through the different options that we have.
Yep. So a landscape designer will come out to your property, they'll measure for you, they'll put it into a design or a space relation drawing. At the very least, we'll be able to tell you exactly what these kind of projects can cost and allow you to budget for it.
So it's that first initial step that will be the most helpful to see, okay, what can it actually look like? How much is this going to cost me? And then you can alter if need be once you figure that out.
Yeah, and there's a wide range of materials that allow you to control the cost of things. And more importantly, there's a lot of ways that you can be a DIY, project manager yourself. In other words, do it at home, involve the family. That's what garden centers are for.
I love the idea that getting the family involved too, because I think it makes it an experience then for everyone as well. So you will have, if they came to you and they wanted their oasis, you can help them with their annuals, their perennials. There's some trees that are here. What am I missing? What else can you incorporate?
Well, you've got to plan for a good foundation. If you're building a house, it's a good basement or a good foundation.
Gotcha.
Same thing with the landscape, and same thing with doing a patio. You have to control the material used and make sure that it's utilized right. So that way your project isn't short-lived. And that's what we can do for you.
I love that idea because I would look at my space and say, I don't know where to begin. And so to have someone from your team come to the house, sketch it all out for me, make me feel like I can really have this backyard of my dreams, and I don't have to do any of the work really if I don't want to.
Really. Yeah, a typical client of mine is in the same shoes you're in.
Okay, good. I don't feel so bad.
The first thing that they want us to do is reassure them that it's not going to be a huge process, or it's not going to be overwhelming. And that's what we're there for. We're there to help them. We plan the space out, we meet their wish list, and we give them a design that works within what they're asking for, and then it's all about execution after that.
I love it. By the end of this, I will have my oasis, and before I leave, I'm going to stop and buy some of the great gifts that you have in the gift section area too. So
Wonderful.
This is a win-win for me today, I must say, Chad. Thank you for having us here at Lowe's.
Glad to have you.
It's been a pleasure.
Our Spring in Bloom trip continues with trees and shrubs. The team at Don Moulds in Amherst are here to help.
Hi, I'm Lori Davis. I'm at Moulds Garden Center in Amherst, Ohio. I'm the nursery manager here, and I'd like to help you today get some information on how to plant trees and shrubs. First of all, you need to pick a good site for your plant. If it's a sunny plant, don't think you can get away with something that's going to be in the shade. You also need a well-drained site. Most plants will not grow well if they're sitting in water or with a really soppy soil. When you plant a tree, make sure that you know how big that tree is going to get ultimately, so that if you plant it near your house, you're not going to mess up your foundation or push up your sidewalks or your driveway. Another thing when considering your plant, consider size. Because here we have electric wires. Check the height that your plant is going to get to at maturity. If it's going to be over 25 feet, don't plant it within 15 feet of a utility. Today we're going to plant a cherry tree for you. When you're getting ready to plant your tree, first look at your container or the ball and burlap tree that you might have. Consider the size, and you're going to need to dig your hole 2 to 3 times larger than the size of the pot. You're going to loosen that soil up just a little bit so it's easier for the new roots to start getting in and getting their toes in the ground. Take the tree out of your pot, and you're going to make sure that you've got good healthy roots. You'll see white roots, and that'll be a good one. This tree has not girdled itself, so we can plant this right in the ground. Sometimes you'll see roots growing thickly around. You might have to cut through those in order to get those to grow properly and keep the tree from strangling itself. You want to position the tree here. Now, always make sure that your soil line is above ground level. Now, you're going to take your soil, half the soil that you took out of the hole, you'll mix 1-to-1 with a soil amendment, a good composted manure or leaf humus, or in this case, this is a mixture of all of the above. Now this gives it good organic matter without overfeeding it. So you wouldn't fertilize it this time of the year when you plant. You can wait 4 to 6 weeks before you give it a feeding of fertilizer. So we filled about halfway, and you can firm it down. You can take your shovel and coax it into place, but always then you would fill the hole with water to let the soil settle. Once that's settled, you can then fill it again. Then we're going to fill up the rest of the hole and bring the soil up to where the soil is in the pot. If you go any higher, you're going to go too high on the trunk, and that can cause rotting on the trunk. And once you've done that, you can stake your tree to hold it in place. You stake it loosely. And we recommend that you use something that's flexible. Leave it staked for a year, maybe 2 growing seasons. And then you take it off the stake. It shouldn't need anything past that point. Planting season in northern Ohio is early spring to late spring, and then again in late summer into early October. This gives the plants a chance to grow enough roots to survive the stresses of either the summer or the winter. And if you have any question, please feel free to call us or come see us at Mold's Garden Center here in Amherst, Ohio.
Coming up after the break, we're talking porch pots in Akron.
Welcome back to Spring in Bloom. Our gardens, they aren't just about the flowers. You can also add some decorations, including things for the birds.
Backyard Feeding Station is a local business where people come to talk about wild birds and different kinds that frequent the area and how to attract them, different things they eat and where they nest. We sell all kinds of seed. We got stuff as far as finch mix, squirreless mix that keeps squirrels off your feeder. We have that local chicken seed by Cedar Crest. We also carry mealworms for eastern bluebirds. We have suets and grape jelly for orioles. We got everything. If they're looking to attract a certain bird, like I said, bluebirds are going after mealworms, fruit, nuts. They're a little bit pickier eaters. Goldfinches have a really weak beak strength. They have trouble cracking a sunflower shell, so we have other stuff for them. Finch mix is great, we sell a lot of that. We have houses, we have feeders, there's hopper feeders. Some of them have bigger perches for bigger birds. Other ones that are screen feeders like this are gonna only adhere to clinging birds that don't need a perch. We carry bird baths and tray feeders. Those are gonna be, just like it sounds, a tray with a mesh metal on the bottom to keep from pooling up with water. And then you're gonna have mourning doves and bigger birds that are able to perch on those when they eat. A lot of people will come in here not knowing what type of birds actually will use a house. And really we've got 2 size holes on the houses that are 1 inch and 1.5 inch diameter. And that's gonna be the bigger size for the bluebirds. Hummingbirds are attracted to red, the color orange for orioles. So I've heard things as far as an orange pool noodle on, wrapping around a shepherd's hook that'll attract orioles in. And once they're in, then they see you have grape jelly or something that they're interested in. They'll stick around and build a nest nearby, and they'll raise their babies until they're ready to head back down south. But one of the most common questions people have is how to keep squirrels off a feeder. So, we have baffles. We also have squirreless feeders. Popular brand Squirrel Buster we carry, and they work every time. And if you do like the squirrels, we carry squirrel food and squirrel munch boxes, they call them. And there's people that come in here that love the squirrels, but there's other people that want to keep them off their bird feeders. Everyone loves it, a big smile. They look around and say, you got a lot of cool stuff here. And a lot of people just want to come up here and talk birds, and they share their stories and stuff, and I can tell them things I've heard. It's cool, it's awesome, I like it, it's a lot of fun. Meet a lot of cool people, and everyone, shares the same passion of just watching your wild birds out back and, nature's beauty.
Backyard Feeding Station has 3 locations. We visited the one that's in Menor.
Part of spring flowers include the arrangements to decorate your front door. Graf Grower shows us how to create beautiful porch pots.
Hi, Hi, I'm Lisa Graff from Graff's Garden Shop and Landscape, and we're located on White Pond Drive in Akron, just off Interstate 77. And today we're going to be talking about creating porch pots, and they are my favorite. That's kind of my favorite way of gardening because it's a great accent to my landscape, to my porch, to my patio, makes a friendly greeting. When we think about porch pots, we think about 4 seasons. We think about early spring, which is now. We think about summer, fall, and winter. And so for early spring, we have to choose cool tolerant plants because we have a lot of fluctuation in temperature. Pansies and violas are by far our mainstay for early spring garden pots because they will tolerate the cooler temperatures, even a little snow sometimes, and they bloom and bloom and bloom. And these were just planted, they're young because it's early, and they will grow and really fill in. And then we use some of the bulb type plants like the daffodils, the tulips, the hyacinths. We have Helleborus. That is a perennial. A lot of perennials, the cells burst when they get frost and then they die back. But the Helleborus has this unique thing that even if it would get into the low 20s, the water in the stems just drains out of them and they get a little limp, and then as soon as it warms up, they pop right back up. So they're an excellent choice for a little bulk in your planters. So when you go to create your pot, you'll want to choose, and you could choose all one thing. So you could fill your pot all with pansies, but typically it's a little more interesting if you do different plants. And so you would just break the soil slightly on the bottom of your plant and then set it. I already have some soil in my pot, set it in. And what we try to do is something like a feature plant close to the front. And you have to decide, do you want to see your planter all the way around like in this one that looks just as nice on the back side as the front? Or do you want it to be more 3-sided? The one that I'm working on now would be more 3-sided. And we would just set some of the plants in maybe a little ivy, so you have a little bit of a trailer, and I have a small pansy to go in it. So it just depends what you like and the colors that you choose. But there's a wide assortment of colors, so you can really do a nice job with it. When you're done planting, you will want to water your pot. When it's warm, it will take more water. When it's cold, it will take less water. So you'll just want to check it every few days. You could also add some embellishments. Sometimes I've placed, this would be too big for this pot, but I've placed a bird in the pot. Here I use some of the little eggs with kind of an Easter theme, the pussy willow branches, curly willows also beautiful in them, and they just add a nice touch to the pots. For fertilization, we do have something like Osmocote, which is very long lasting. You could mix it into the top layer of the soil and it will last several months. Or you can do the Miracle-Gro, and that you mix with water and water it once every week or two, according to the directions, of course. Well, this just gives you a few ideas to kind of prompt your creativity. And we do have all the materials here, and we can help you with it if you stop in, but we also offer workshops. So you could actually go to our website, which is graffgrowers.com, and it will tell you all about the various workshops that we have coming up.
Graff Growers is on White Pond Drive, and that is in Akron. When we come back, we're learning all about the bulbs to plant in your garden. Well, there it is, folks. For a long time, I thought this was my own Mossman secret buyer's outlet over here on Warren Road. And I think everybody that finds this place sort of feels like that, don't they?
Thanks, David. Yeah, absolutely.
Why is it? Is it because the prices are ridiculously low?
Yeah, absolutely. We try and keep the prices as low as possible here. So we sell in quantity, so we keep everything low cost for our local community.
Well, this is why we have sort of a nice yard over at the Moss Chateau because of this. And my wife's really interested in bulbs now, and bulbs are sort of tricky, aren't they? Because you got to know when to start them, where they are, how to. The bees love them, that's for sure.
Right. You know what? We start planting the bulbs in the fall. So any of these bulbs you can take and plant them in the fall. They have to go through the cold season, and then slowly you'll see some of these come up. These are just right out of that cold season. Then these guys come up after 10 days and 20 days, and then they start blooming.
Okay, so these ones here, these are, how old are these?
Those just came out of the cooler.
But they had to be like in the cooler, like pretending it's winter.
Correct.
So you're fooling them, you're tricking them.
Yep, we're tricking them.
And then right here, like right here is how old are these now?
These are about 10 days old or so. And then gradually, as we keep going, as we put them in the heat, in a bright sunny day like today, they want to all pop open.
So, and these are the daffodils. So are these deer food?
The daffodils are not. This is more of a mixture. But deer will eat the tulips and the hyacinths. They won't touch the daffodils. Ohio is really the daffodil capital, because if you look at your neighbor's house, look to see what's in their yard.
Yeah.
And they're going to have daffodils, because those are the one plant, the type of bulb that animals won't bug.
So these are totally mature now.
Yeah, these are the mature daffodils. This is what you want to plant in your yard in the fall. Take them, keep them in your house, enjoy them. The hyacinths, they smell so fragrant.
You know, the minute you say that, I can smell it right now.
Yeah.
And that's why the bees love them.
Right, and the bees are here today.
So this is the one that looks like a cone in here. This
Correct.
So this is a nice thing to bring
indoors. This is how they start off, and then they gradually get larger and larger, and you pull this little thing up to protect them from falling over.
So, I like that. So how long into the season will these last?
They'll last about a month or so, and then what you do is you just keep them in a nice, cool, dry place, let them completely die off, and then you can actually pull the bulb out in the fall and plant it right in the ground.
Okay, so this is sort of represents the beginning of spring, beginning of summer kind of thing.
Correct.
And when you come to Buyers Outlet over here on Warren Road, it is amazing because you get, how many trucks a day do you get in of stuff? So I mean, the prices are great.
Two
so
or three
buy
trucks a day.
2 or 3 trucks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what? Another big seller here, ferns.
Correct.
So how many ferns do you go through in the summer?
About 10,000 ferns. Yeah.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, we sell a different variety of fern. A lot of times we get Boston ferns, but we've switched over to a Nevada fern. They don't shed as much, and they're perfect for our local area, which is, there are a lot of trees on every street.
Yeah.
So you have to have some sort of shade plant.
So I'm in the winter, I'm trying to plan my garden, and I want to do a lot of hanging baskets and that kind of stuff. When should I come to Buyers Outlet to start putting that stuff out so it's safe to put it out and it doesn't get like frozen and cooked by Mother Nature?
Right. The one thing we're worried about with these early spring plants is not necessarily the cold weather. We're worried about making sure that they stay wet, dehydration. If the plant dehydrates, gets completely dry, it will die. If it gets cold or frozen and it's wet, it will survive. That plant will stay and survive. If you're looking for spring and summer flowers, May, Mother's Day is perfect. Anytime in May, we're going to be loaded with spring and summer flowers here.
Okay, so as long as you give them a drink, we're in pretty good shape.
As long as you give them a drink, you're in good shape with the tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, pansy baskets. They love the cold weather.
Yeah.
They want to be cold. I was surprised at how cold the greenhouse was.
Yeah.
But as long as they're cold, they'll do well.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you, David.
Buyers Outlet, folks. Check them out year round. They've got it all.
Well, no matter how big your yard or your porch is, you can design a simple pot to add more color. But before you shop, here's a few things to keep in mind thanks to the experts at Uncle John's Plant Farm.
Uncle John's Plant Farm was started in 1974 by my husband Jeff and his father John, hence Uncle John's. They purchased a 1925 greenhouse that raised nothing but tomatoes and evolved from lettuce to geraniums to annuals, poinsettias, Easter lilies, and now mums have taken over as the second season. Today we're going to do a planter using an azalea and some ivy and just talk a little bit about choices of planters before we get into spring season and you fill your patios and window boxes and ready to go. First thing in planning a container for your patio, for your garden, is selection of pot. really important. One of the main things is making sure that you have a drainage hole. A drainage hole is super important because you don't want to drown the roots. Happy roots make a happy plant. So 3 of the containers that I pulled today, one being plastic, another being glazed terracotta, and then the last is the traditional terracotta. This one will dry out quicker because it is porous. The plastic will hold water a little bit more. Choosing a pot, very, very critical to begin with. And then the next thing would be choosing your plant. Always make sure that you know whether you have sun, full sun, or part shade, where you're going to plant, because every plant is different. They like different things and will perform much better if they're in the area that they like to be. We're going to take this little guy out. First, give it some soil. And again, I call this soil because there's not a bit of dirt in this guy. We use ProMix. It's got a little vermiculite, a little peat moss, all kinds of wonderful things, nice and fluffy and soft, so the roots don't have to work too hard. So we fill that up about halfway. So we've got our pot filled with soil. We're gonna take the pot, kind of give it just some loving squeezes here to break up this root ball. Gonna set it in there. Oh, that's a little too low because you want it to be right at the soil level that it was originally in that pot. Because you fill it up too high, the plant won't be happy. So we're gonna grab a little more soil. Fill it in there. There we go. Gonna situate it right about there. If you want any trailers, all kinds of things to do, you can fill it and keep it in the pot, put the pot in there, and as the season goes along, pull this out and put something else in there. So changing out your container, it can be very easy if you take that method. I like to take everything out because once it's done for me. You're gonna put those in there. We're gonna take 2 different colors of English ivy. Look at those roots. Kind of give it a little squeeze there. And then also pansies, you want to get some color. So this is a nice April color pot. So you're getting some fullness, you're getting some color, and make sure that after you plant your planter, you want to give it a nice drink of water. Pop off those dead things. And then dust your planter off and you are all set.
Uncle John's Plant Farm is on Columbia Road in Olmsted Falls. Now when we come back, flowers that are all the buzz for spring. Welcome back to our Spring in Bloom road trip. It's no secret that the bees are so important for many reasons, including creating a healthy and thriving garden. Well, the folks at John's Country Nursery can help you to get started on your bee journey.
We are at John's Country Nursery, and we're a full-service nursery. We offer all different types of plant materials. We have trees and shrubs and annuals and perennials and herbs. We also have a landscape design department. We also do landscape maintenance. One of our big things is a section for the honeybees. So we offer beekeeping supplies. We offer beekeeping classes. We also offer honeybees for people that are interested in getting started with their hives in the spring. Pollinators are very important in our lives because a third of the things that we eat are because of a pollinator. We have about 500 different species of bees in Ohio. We also have other pollinators are moths and butterflies and beetles and hummingbirds and bats. So if you can provide flowers to invite all of those pollinators to your backyard, that would be wonderful. You not only want flowers and all different types of flowers, annuals, perennials, herbs, but you also want trees and shrubs. And what you're looking for are plants that provide pollen and nectar from the spring until the fall, so that they have a food source the whole year. You can stick with Ohio natives, that's better. You want simple flowers. Honeybees are attracted to shapes of flowers, not necessarily colors. Honeybees cannot see reds and oranges, and white to them, they cannot see white, but they see the ultraviolets of white, and that's why a beekeeper suit is white. When a customer comes into John's Country Nursery and says that they're interested in beekeeping, it's something they've always wanted to do and they'd like to get started, I usually take them over to our bee section and let them know what they need in order to start. And bees are available in the springtime, so if you don't get bees in the spring, then you would have to wait until the next season in order to start your new hobby. You need a bee box, you need just a basic setup as far as the woodenware goes. You need a smoker, you need a hive tool, a bee brush, a suit. I highly recommend a suit so you can focus on beekeeping and not getting stung by the honeybees. That anybody can have a beehive in their backyard. It doesn't take much space. The bees will go up to 3 miles to get what they need, the pollen and the nectar. We also offer classes, and so at that point, if they haven't taken a beekeeping class, I highly recommend it. I used a lot of honey, so about 30 years ago, I thought, well, I might as well start beekeeping, and I love being outside, and that was another reason for me to do another thing outside, and beekeeping filled that niche. If you have a productive hive, if it's been a good season, you can get up to 60 to 100 pounds of honey per hive. Some people say they want to help the honeybee population. Some people want the honey. Some people want more fruitful garden. So it definitely, because of the pollination, you will get more fruits, from your fruit trees and produce in your garden from the bees. And some people just like being outside, and it's another, honeybees are amazingly fascinating, and every time you go out to your hive, you learn something different.
John's Country Nursery is on Old State Road in Middlefield.
Our next stop is making a difference in the world and your garden. It's Rust Belt Riders.
Rust Belt Riders has been around since 2014, providing businesses, organizations, and individuals across Northeast Ohio with a clean, timely, and community-benefiting alternative to landfills for their food waste. And our mission is to feed people, not landfills. We really are trying to close the food loop, as it were. So I think a lot of effort and energy has been given to where our food comes from, and that's tremendously important. But we think that the farm-to-table movement is only complete when you've got a table-to-farm movement. And so what we do and what we focus on is helping people divert their food from going to landfills. So we work with businesses to pick up their food scraps, as well as residents and communities to help them meaningfully divert their food from going to landfills. After we collect that material, we then process it into the products that you see before you, which we market and sell as Tilth Soil. And so Tilth Soil is a line of certified organic soils used for potting mixes to houseplants to help people keep their plants healthy and happy. We have 2 programs that residents can opt into. We have a community-based drop-off location, which currently has around 20 and growing drop-off locations across Northeast Ohio. And the way that works is you pay a monthly subscription. You bring your food scraps to ideally a conveniently located drop-off location, deposit your food scraps, rinse and repeat. And so you can do that on an as-needed basis, as often or as infrequently as you might want. But then on the other end of things, we live in the era of convenience, and so we also have a to-your-door home pickup program. All of the food waste that we pick up, we mix with wood chips and leaf waste, which we get from municipalities. And so it's that compost that is the foundation of all of the blends that we make, and is the key ingredient that makes our blends so special. Depending on what you're trying to grow, we usually have a mix for you. So early in the season, you might be starting things from seed, in which case you might want to go with our product called Sprout. And then after you've got healthy starts, you might want to put it into a raised bed or a larger container garden, and that's what Grow is for. Grow is by far our most popular product. Really user-friendly, makes everybody feel like they've got a green thumb. But not everybody's into gardening, and that's totally fine. Lots of people love their houseplants, be it spider plants or monsteros, you name it. And then we've got a mix for indoor houseplants as well. provides a ton of drainage for your mix, making it really hard to over or underwater that mix. But then a lot of people are aware of fungus gnats. So these are the pesky little flies that emerge out of your soil very often and are the bane of lots of houseplant parents' existence. And so by working with Nathan on our team, we found a microscopic worm that we inoculate this mix with that will kill off any fungus gnats. And so we know that we can ship out this product knowing that it will be free of fungus gnats. And that we think has been a huge benefit to a lot of the houseplant parents that have enjoyed this product. We love working with gardeners and farmers one-on-one to make sure that they're getting the blend that they need to get the results that they need so that they can keep growing as much food as they can.
You can visit Rust Belt Riders online to learn more and get started with the soil at your home. Still to come, Spring in Bloom continues with a cold weather favorite. Spring doesn't always mean warm weather, so when the snow and the cold keeps hanging around, there are a few flowers strong enough to withstand. We went to Greensmith Garden Center to learn more.
Here at the Greensmith Garden Center, we have all your needs for spring. We have your annuals for your flower beds. We have knowledgeable staff that can help you be successful in your garden. We have the lawn and garden department. We have a full line of gift shop items and a birding department that will bring paradise to your backyard. Now is the time of the year you want to start thinking outside. We have violas and pansies. They're super colorful, showy, and they also can handle frost. So these can be out in the snow and still have flowers coming out through the snow. The snow won't kill them. They will lay down, but they'll perk back up once the sun comes out. They're very colorful. They can be used in a wide variety of applications. They can be put in your flower beds for color. They can be put in a pottery for decoration on your front porch. You can keep them in the window in your house for color. They definitely need full sun. They can't be put in a shady area. So the pansies and violas are here shown in pots, but they also can be purchased in flats too and be put in flower beds. Pansies and violas are great because they're already showing color now, and these will last throughout the summer. Today I want to tell you a little bit about the Helleborus. These are the first perennial that are going to bloom in your landscape. They will bloom in several different colors. They bloom in whites, purples, pinks. They have almost an evergreen leaf to them. The green will be this green in the snow. They're the very first perennial of the year to flower and super hardy. And they'll be flowering before any plant even starts coming up out of the ground. They are great for shady locations and wet areas too. So spring's also a great time to start potting up your vegetables and your herbs in your house. You'll start early with onion sets, with potatoes and your cold weather seeds, your broccoli and your cabbage inside, and then you'll move into peppers, tomatoes, and eggplant in April. If you start them in your seed packs inside in your seed trays, they'll have a great start rooting inside, so when Memorial Day comes, they'll be ready to be put out in your flower bed and they'll be large and ready to go. Early spring is the best time to get out and put out your hummingbird feeders early. You want to attract the hummingbirds. You want to have it out before the hummingbirds come back so the hummingbirds know where to find the food. You want to put it out ahead of time so the hummingbirds know where to feed from before they pass your house and go to the next house that has the feeders out. At the Greensmith Garden Center, you're welcome to come out any time of the week, 7 days a week, either to our Hinckley location or to our Medina location, to find a wide variety of spring flowers into perennials that our staff is well versed in what is the best way to take care of your plants from day one, taking them home, to striving throughout the summer by proper fertilizing techniques. So come out today to the Greensmith Garden Center.
Greensmith Garden Center is located on Pearl Road in Medina.
So that's going to do it for our Spring in Bloom road trip. We do hope that you learned a few things about your garden, or we maybe even inspired you to become a first-time gardener. You can find out more information about all of the wonderful garden centers that we showed you today on fox8.com, and they'll be happy to answer those gardening questions for you anytime. For David Moss, I'm Natalie Herbeck, and we'll see you on the next New Day Cleveland.